Welcome to RCAM. I'm your host, Ryan, and thank you for tuning in today. So, today we are going to be talking about the new How to Train Your Dragon movie because I'm not going to lie, it was pretty dang good. It was pretty dang good. I was impressed to say the least. So we'll talk about that. Then we'll do some updates on kind of the No Kings protests that happened over the weekend. And guess what? Spoiler: there are no kings, at least in America right now. So we'll discuss that and some more topics. But if you like this content, please like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell to stay notified every time we go live. And we go live every Monday through Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. I appreciate you guys. I hope you had a blessed weekend and a happy Father's Day. Being a dad is one of the single greatest experiences of my life. And 10 out of 10 recommend. It's awesome. And I got to spend the day with my lovely wife, two beautiful kiddos. We saw How to Train Your Dragon. I also ate a giant steak with my dad, and we went swimming. So it was pretty cool. Definitely a good Father's Day, and I enjoyed it. And one of the things that I enjoyed was going to see How to Train Your Dragon. Now, I was a big fan of the original animated movie by DreamWorks. I mean, it has dragons in it, so that alone sold me. And it was just a really good story. It was entertaining. I like what they did with Hiccup and Toothless and the dragons. It was an immersive world, and it was just a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of the movies that we were getting. So and it also, I think, does a pretty good job, actually, appealing primarily to young boys. I thought, they did a good job with Hiccup and his character with his dad, stoic, and it was good. So it was not that surprising to me that they would want to do a live action adaptation for that film. And I got to be honest with you guys, it was incredible. They did an absolutely great job with this movie, minus some small things that I do think are forgivable. It was so a lot of times when they do live action remakes, it's also a live action retelling of the original story. So they slip in some new approach to how the story went, and oftentimes when they do this, they actually rob the the original story of its heart. And I think a good case in point was the recent Lilo and Stitch live action. They did that film, and they completely just undermined the message of the original film with the way that they did the ending for that movie. If you want to check that out, I did do a review of that movie, and they botched the ending on it. So after seeing that, I was very nervous going into How to Train Your Dragon 2 with some of the casting choices. I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm not completely stoked that they replaced Astrid's character with, somebody that just doesn't look like Astrid, which is what it comes down to. So those were things that rubbed me the wrong way. But as a How to Train Your Dragon fan, as somebody that has enjoyed it, I said, let me give it a chance, because I did think, and I said this then, that Nico Parker, who they got to do Astrid, I didn't have any doubt that she would do a good job portraying Astrid. She just didn't look the part. So I was wondering, maybe are they gonna, like, give her blue contacts or something? Like, are they gonna do something with her character to make her look more like Astrid? And they ultimately didn't. But I actually do think, with all things considered, she did a pretty good job portraying Astrid. She did forgivable. She did a great job. Now I do think Isabella May, and I've said this before, would have been a great casting choice for that role. But I thought Nico Parker, she crushed it. She crushed it. She did a good. I was convinced. All right, I was convinced. I was watching Astrid on camera, and honestly, every person nailed their role. I think despite the casting not looking exactly the way they looked in How to Train Your Dragon, for the most part, they did a good job embodying the characters. The kid they picked for um, what am I? Why am I forgetting his name? Wow, I'm totally Hiccup. Hiccup. He was great. He was perfect as Hiccup. He was phenomenal. And Gerard Butler as Stoic was perfect because Gerard Butler is Stoic. So he nailed that. So it was perfect bringing him in to actually play the live action version since he was the one doing the voice acting for the Stoic in How to Train Your Dragon. So Gerard Butler nailed it. Um, and even the supporting characters did a good job. So I'll pull up some of them. This is from Variety. So, How to Train Your Dragon flew to the top of the box office charts, earning a stronger than expected 83 million in its first weekend of release. Uh, so then you have Rough Nut and Tough Nut. I believe this is Rough Nut and this is Tough Nut. Now she didn't. They both, I think facial wise, he nails Tough Nut. He looks exactly like him, but they changed their hair color. So again, just small little changes that I don't think are that big of a deal. They also made her overweight, which I don't know why they did that. I don't quite understand. But it worked. It was fine. So those are the small the honestly, if this is me nitpicking the movie. So these are that's the I would say the parts where if I had a complaint, that would be the complaint. But I do think they did fine in their roles. They did a good job acting out these characters. All of them. I forget this kid's name. He was fine though, although he got race swapped too. So another small thing was there was like Black Viking, like very obviously Black Vikings, which didn't make sense to me. I- but it's just like that's par for the course with remakes nowadays. It just is what it is. It's kind of baked into the cake at this point. You're just they have to slip in a black character. So yeah. I actually call that tokenism. Like if you feel the need to have to put them in instead of them just being the best person for the cast. So that's just the case with DI initiatives. It is what it is. Um, but I thought everybody did a fantastic job, and I thought the casting choices, for the most part, were good. I mean, they at least played their roles well. They portrayed the characters. They were acting well, and I thought another cool thing was the CGI. They did. I mean, the CGI was really good. The DreamWorks put a lot of time and effort into making this look as realistic as possible, while staying true to how these characters actually look in the animated movies. So I thought they did a good job with Toothless and some of the other dragons. Even the giant dragon you see at the end was ferocious and looked the part. So they did a great job there to portraying the dragons. Toothless looked just like Toothless. If he was actually in real life, which is what you want from a live action film, you want it to look as real as possible. I don't want to feel like I'm watching an animated movie with some real humans in it. That's not I want to feel like I'm watching a live action. And with movies like Snow White, they did a terrible job with the CGI, where it was obviously computer generated. And that's where it causes a disconnect. I said this when I was reviewing Snow White. It caused a disconnect for me. I felt taken out of the movie, to be honest with you guys. I felt like just it was just so bad and so abysmal that it ruined the movie for me. It made it it took me away from focusing on any redeeming quality of the film. But I guess, with Snow White, there really wasn't any redeeming quality of the film. But if there was, I was too distracted by the monstrosities that were the dwarves in the movie to really notice. So yeah, they did an excellent job with the CGI and How to Train Your Dragon. So they nailed it there. And the story, If you have seen How to Train Your Dragon, then you have seen this movie. It is basically a shot by shot remake of the original film. I think there is one scene, and I didn't even realize it wasn't in there. It had to be pointed out to me by my sister who also saw the movie. They cut one scene out where Toothless and and Hiccup are in a field, and like the little dragons are playing around. They cut that scene. I didn't notice. That was that was a scene that really didn't change anything. So they stuck to the most part to how the original film was, maybe updating the language a little bit. And it made sense. It worked. It was fine. So this is actually what I wanted in a remake. I wanted them to actually stay true to how the actual film was. That's what you go to see these remakes to see. You just see the original creation, the animated version brought to life. And they did that. They executed and delivered, and it was fun. And I would go see it again. I would go see it in IMAX. It was that enjoyable. And my wife liked it, my daughter liked it, my father-in-law liked it, my dad liked it, my sister liked it. We all liked it. Everybody really enjoyed that movie. So this is one of those things where if you've never seen the original animated film, you can enjoy it. You will enjoy it. It's just a good movie, and it'll make you want to watch all the animated films. And I do think that they had a successful enough opening weekend where, yeah, we're gonna get more How to Train Your Dragon um, sequels. So far, as far as I'm aware, there are 3 movies total, and I expect to see remakes of the next 2. So we should expect that with the success of this film. So as of as far as I last checked, How to Train Your Dragon pulled in on opening weekend 83.7 million and about 200 million globally. Now, Lilo and Stitch did outperform them, but that's actually not surprising to me because Lilo and Stitch would appeal to a much wider audience. Because I do think for younger kids, it might be, the dragons might be a little bit scary for them. So it's not quite as family friendly as a movie like Lilo and Stitch, which is a little bit more lighthearted, a little less serious. Uh, so I think, yeah, that would do good, and it also has a more wide range built-in fan base than How to Train Your Dragon. It's been out longer, and they've had a in their heyday they did really good. So yeah, I think that's probably why Lilo and Stitch performed better than How to Train Your Dragon. They also have the giant of Disney behind them. Not to say that Paramount isn't a big studio in and of itself, because they are. Um, I mean DreamWorks. My bad. So um, and Snow White obviously performed the worst of these all with 42.2 million domestically. So if you compare it to Snow White, it absolutely obliterated Snow White, doubled the numbers that Snow White did, and raised the bar on, in my opinion, on how to do a remake. Give people actually what they want. I know we're used, we're used to, at least Hollywood thinks that they know better than their audience. Give the people what they want. They wanted a remake, give them a remake. Okay? Now, if you want to tell your own little interesting story, call it a reimagining. Call it something else. Don't call it a remake though. If you're going to butcher the original story, don't bother remaking it at all. Make something else. But leave the films as they were. Just bring them onto the big screen in live action, and people will pay money to see it, and they will enjoy it. And we did. And I think about this too in terms of like video game adaptations brought to the big screen. When they take a lot of liberties, it just loses me. it just really loses me. Some notable exceptions though is like Sonic the Hedgehog. I thought they did great. And you want to know why they did great with Sonic 2, by the way? they listened to their fans when it came to the design of Sonic. So they turned Sonic from an abomination to being something you actually want to see on TV. You actually want to see. So I think DreamWorks probably understood, like, if they got Toothless wrong, it would not be good. So they took lessons learned from the Sonic playbook, and made sure not to make that same mistake with their live action, and it was great. It was very enjoyable, and I have I have nothing bad to say about it. I highly recommend this movie. I give it a 10 out of 10. The acting was subpar. The plot, obviously, of How to Train Your Dragon is great. It's excellent. The acting was well executed, and it was just a beautifully shot film. The lighting, the environments, the recreation of iconic scenes, all of it was just spectacularly done. You could tell they put a lot of time, effort, and energy into making this film as good as possible for their fans, and they did not disappoint. They gave us something that we can actually look back and enjoy, which is why I can confidently say that the How to Train Your Dragon remake is the best live action remake that I have ever seen. So now the bar is set pretty high because now I have these expectations, at least with DreamWorks when they do remakes, because now I know what they can do. I know what they are capable of. Disney, not so much. I don't really have high expectations for Disney. I expect they will continue to disappoint. So that's just par for the course. But DreamWorks, they actually produce a lot of bangers. All right, DreamWorks does a pretty good job with their movies. So uh, it's not really surprising that they did a good live action remake. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I thought, they did well, and we will transition a little bit, but first, we'll stay in the main of media for a second, and then we'll transition over to talk a little bit about politics because there's always stuff to talk about politics. Uh, so we'll talk about entertainment for a little bit. I don't know if you guys have seen this video going around, but well, before I show it to you, I'm just, brace yourself because you might die from secondhand cringe. So I do want to give that disclaimer before I play the video that there's a very real risk that you don't make it through this next video because you die from cringe. Okay? All right. Now that we got that established, this is a new music video by Will Smith. And this person writes, I have no idea what possessed Will Smith to try to make a new music video.
I like pretty girls. Girls, 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 girls. I love pretty girls. Girls, 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 girls. I like pretty girls. Girls, 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 girls. I love pretty girls. Girls, 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 girls. You don't gotta wait in line tonight. You too fine for the line tonight. 5 + 5, you a dime tonight. It's a full house, better play your cards right. I'ma post your pic if you pose. Make one phone call, you in vogue. Head, shoulders, knees, toes. Hold up, wait, pose. I'm about to do some investing. I'll spend it on you and your bestie. You and your twin on a jet ski. I'll change your life if you let me. I like pretty girls.
All right, I'm not gonna play the twerking. Good Lord. Good God. Why did he do this? I don't get it. I don't understand. Will, what's wrong with you, man? So it's just that the whole time, and like, all right, I know we're living in a time period where objective beauty isn't really a thing anymore, and we like to pretend that everybody's beautiful. But come on, can we be for real for a little bit? Can we be honest? All right, yeah, I guess she's pretty in her own right, but like obesity isn't pretty. I'm sorry. It just isn't. And then the way these some of these women like dress, they dress as ugly as Like, what is this? This chick is there's one chick that's homeless. She's home. This girl is homeless supposed to be attractive now? Is that supposed to be pretty? And what's with this girl's hat? She looks like Zorro meets Cruella Deville or something like that. That's like the look she's going for. So it just doesn't work. I mean, her outfit's kind of crazy too, but at least she's kind of pretty. But I don't get what's going on here. Yeah, this is like a homeless person was huffing too much paint. That's what this outfit screams. Like you gave the homeless chick too much paint and now her overalls are covered and this person what? What's with that tie? Why is that tie so big? I don't what? One, tie etiquette. Your tie doesn't go past your belt loop, okay? So she messed that up right then and there. Your tie is supposed to touch your belt loop, okay? So she's not even wearing her tie, and it's not even secure on her neck. So I don't, no. And yeah, it just none of this works. It's just weird and bizarre. And I mean, how old is Will Smith now that he's making videos? Like, how old is he? I just don't understand what would possess him to make videos like this. I just don't. Um, I gotta see. Is Will Smith? Let's see. So he's 56 years. You're a 56-year-old man, bro. Like I get that your wife sucks. All right, I get that. I get it. And maybe you do like pretty girls because the only woman in your life is horrible and is in an open relationship, and you die a little inside the longer you stay in your marriage. But maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is a video where he's just crying for help. Maybe that's what he is, because he hates his own life so much that he has to sing about other women to escape the nightmarish reality that is upon him with Jada Pinkett Smith. That has to be it. Anyway, this was weird. It was very weird. But not the weirdest thing I've seen, but still pretty weird. Okay, let's move on. Speaking of weird, I guess we have another like pseudo celebrity in the making, and that is Elon Musk's trans daughter. Speaking of weird dancing, Elon Musk's daughter. Good lord, I hate when I unintentionally adopt the language. Son, Elon Musk's trans son, on a drag performance in skin tight in a skin tight bodysuit at the LA Anti Ice fundraiser. So yeah, this is a grown man in a drag performance, Vivian Wilson, 21, who famously denounced his father. And and we got to start taking the New York Post and any other publication that goes along with this to task. Like, what are you doing? Why are you still playing this stupid game? Why are they still worried about misgendering these people? And that's why as long as we see companies continuing to toe the line to protect the feelings of transgender individuals, we haven't really moved on as a country from this ideology. So at every opportunity, we do need to take them to task on it. We do need to call attention. So every time I see somebody using the actual incorrect pronouns, I will always correct them, because this is Elon Musk's son. All right, this is a boy. This is a biological male. We are not going to pretend. We're not going to go along with the charade. No, let's call a spade a spade. proudly waved a trans flag as he strutted on the stage during Friday night's show at the Bellwether in downtown LA, just blocks away from the scenes of riots and unrest during recent demonstrations, Out Magazine reported. Uh, Wilson drag performance was part of her of Save Her, an environmental drag show at an event put on by a drag activist, Patty Gonia. God, you know what's sad? You you start like I've been following the trans movement for so long that I actually recognize some of these degenerates' names. All the proceeds from the show went to an immigration legal defense fund for anybody impacted by recent ICE raids, according to the organizer. Wearing a black catsuit with metal structure corset and black high heel boots, Wilson wore her long blonde hair to his hips as he posed in matching dark eyeshadow and lipstick. And he also just kind of dances like a weirdo too. So I get now why Elon Musk said his son is dead and that he does not acknowledge the existence of his son because his son has sadly succumbed to the woke mind virus. It just is what it is. His son is gone. His son is essentially dead and has been baptized into the trans cult and has completely lost their mind where they're performing in these performances too to support their efforts to stop the United States from lawfully deporting people who entered our country illegally. The trans community goes out of their way just to make them completely unlikable at every opportunity. They really do. I mean, every opportunity, they're basically um, doing everything humanly possible to stoke ire and contempt from your average sane individual. All right. Moving on from that, speaking of ICE, we will be covering the No Kings protest that happened this weekend. For those of you who are unaware, there was a No Kings protest. And I was a little confused because I'm like, what? What king? There's no king. At least, at least there's no king in our country. What are they? Who's the what? Oh, they're talking about the president, Donald Trump, who they say is basically made himself a king. So I guess in a way their protest was successful because there is no king. There's only a president. And I just want to remind my leftist friends that Trump is your president, whether you like it or not. So you don't have a king, you have a president. And he is still your president even after your weekend of protesting, even after your ghoulish cries and emotional breakdowns and protests and riots. He's still your president. That hasn't changed and it won't change. He will be your president for another 3.5 years. And Lord willing, we will get another Republican president to take his place. And you'll be using the same playbook on them, I suspect. And it's just really funny to me, too, because these people are incapable of saying anything new. They follow the same exact playbook over and over and over again. To the point where everything they say is entirely predictable. I mean, entirely predictable. So I saw this post earlier. Trump is the new Hitler. Wow. Wow. You know, I never really I never really thought about it like that. I never had it presented to me like that. Trump is he's the new hit. Yeah, totally. Yeah, he's totally rounding up his enemies and gassing them. That's what he's doing. Yeah, of course. It's so obvious. Why didn't I see it before? Oh, that's right, because it's not happening. He's deporting, not gassing, deporting illegal citizens. That's what he's doing. He's deporting people who do not belong here and sending them back to their own country, which is a far cry from gassing them, imprisoning them, or sentencing them to death. Okay? He's not doing any of those things. He's just sending them back to their own countries. That's all. That's it. He's just sending them back to where they came from. You know, maybe uh, maybe we just need to think about it a little bit differently. Like if somebody came into your house, you invited them over, and maybe they wore out their welcome. You asked them to leave. And when you asked them to leave, they said, "Well, what you're doing isn't right. I belong here. I deserve to be here. But it's your house. You have every single right to kick them out." That's America's our house, okay? They don't belong here. They never belonged here. And honestly, they weren't even invited here. So we have every single right to deport them. And then you have people crying about due process. Due process for what? All right, we're not sending them to prison. At least not the nonviolent ones. We're not sending to prison. We're just sending them back to where they came from. That's it. And you want to know what? If their country believes in due process, then if they want to charge them with a crime, they can. They're not being charged with a crime. They're just being sent back to where they came from. Because what they're doing is illegal. It is a crime. We don't need to prove it. It is a crime. You're not here legally? Oh, you're not oh well, you are committing a crime. That's happening. And the crime that you're committing is unlawfully entering our country. So you can go back to your own country. It's just really stupid. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it, man. It's just so dumb. I just don't get people just don't understand that this is actually I think most of the people who protest don't actually understand what they're protesting. They they just understand the immigration at the most superficial and base level possible. They don't understand that when you allow unchecked immigration, that it changes your culture. It changes the demographics of your nation. And you have a whole bunch of people coming into your country that don't understand your customs, your values, and your way of life, and they don't respect it. And they bring their own. And then soon the country that you once had, that you love so much, is no longer the same country. Your traditions get superseded by theirs. Your way of life gets superseded by theirs. And then the same problems that they were running from, they bring to your country. Like, how is that not obvious? And then they act like we're bad for not wanting that. We're the bad ones because we don't want them to turn our country into the same hellhole they left. No, we're not the bad ones. You're the bad ones. You foolish, stupid people are the bad ones for wanting unchecked illegal immigration into our country. Where it's not even just we're getting the good ones, we're getting the good and the bad. I'd say it's arguably all pretty bad, but we're not getting the best of the best coming from these countries. We're getting violent criminals that are murdering our citizens. A question I do think you guys should be asking. So if somebody is opposed to deporting illegal immigrants, just ask them, be like, "Hey, what illegal immigrants or aliens would you support deporting?" And you'll come to discover that there's none. There's not a single none. They wouldn't support none. They should all be here. They all have a right to be here. On your dime, on your tax dollar, they have a right to be here. So it's just frustrating and obnoxious. And these protests though did ultimately turn ugly. So there was an assassination on a Democratic candidate, or a, a Democratic senator, I think. Hold on a second. Let me just make sure I got this right. Da, 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 da. Well, we'll just read the story. All right. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension Superintendent Drew Evans said they are reviewing a manifesto of the al- allegedly penned by the suspect identified as Vance Boltler, but the motivation has still not been determined. This is still a very fluid investigation throughout the day as you've been waiting, and these teams have been working out in field. They've been gathering more documentation and information, he said. So it would be premature of me at this point to really say what the motivations might be. Now, a lot of Republicans have been sharing this assassination uh, attempt by, I guess, this the suspect is was appointed to a council by Tim Walz, so everybody's pegging him as a Democrat because he has these No Kings flyers in his car. Uh, that is suspect. That is a little weird. Evans added that they are still exploring to see if the suspect knew those he targeted. There are certainly some overlap with some of the public meetings. I will say Senator Hoffman and the individual, but we don't know the nature of the relationship or if they actually knew each other. Bolter still remains at large. Minnesota law enforcement officials confirmed on Saturday that the suspect involved in the murder and attempted murder of four people, including state lawmakers, had the names of other elected officials and an anti-Trump No Kings poster protest flyers in his vehicle. Additionally, the suspect identified as Vance Butler was appointed by Minnesota Democratic Governor Tim Walz workforce development. And there's a clip going around of Tim Walz saying that he's friends with school shooters. So this is kind of ironic. When we did a search for the vehicle, there was a manifesto that identified many lawmakers and other officials. So I'm not going to really say one way or the other if this was a Democrat or a Republican, because there seems to be conflicting information about that. The Krasensteins uh, shared a report with supposedly Republican affiliations. And this is one of those things that Democrats and Republicans are quick to jump to, trying to find out, you know, if this guy was a Democrat or Republican right from the get go. I usually wait a little bit, let the facts trickle in before I draw any conclusions. As reported by the Daily Wire on Saturday morning, State Senator John Hoffman, State Rep Melissa Hortman, and their spouses were shot by a suspect allegedly impersonating a police officer in Champlain in Brooklyn Park. The pair were attacked in their homes. Rep Hortman and her spouse uh, were killed in what Gov Tim Wall said was a politically motivated assassination. Hoffman and his wife were both shot numerous times and are expected to survive. This is one of those things where I uh, I don't support political violence. And this is one thing that I do think is more indicative of Democrats than Republicans. We tend to see more of this type of stuff come from the Democratic side than the Republican side. Um, but you know, it's it's definitely not good. But the good news, at least in this, is that the suspect in this assassination has been captured alive. So this is by the Daily Wire. The man accused of killing Minnesota House Democratic leader Melissa Hortman and her husband within the Twin Cities metropolitan area has been taken into custody, authorities say. A high-ranking state official told the Star Tribune that the suspect, has identified as Vance Boltler, was apprehended in Sibley County. Police have since confirmed the development, to much to the relief of the people across Minnesota and the country. I'm grateful that this nightmare has come to an end, with the suspected murderer captured alive so he can be charged, prosecuted, and punished for the horror he has wrought on our state. Minnesota House Speaker Lisa DeMont, a Republican, said in a statement. She added, "Thank you for the brave men and women, local, state, and federal law enforcement who have worked around the clock to ensure this man faces justice." Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what we should expect from him is or expect is justice. I don't really care if I was politically aligned with the people or not. I want justice. Now, there is an interesting tidbit that I guess these uh, this member of Congress voted no in opposition to, I guess, I don't know, some kind of a bill. I, I I don't know. I I just I don't like that this stuff devolves into violence, and we're just seeing more and more violence ramp up. And I'm reminded of Luigi Magnon. We saw political violence there, and he was celebrated as a hero. And I wonder if this guy will get the same treatment. I suspect not, because uh, it's not really clear what part of the aisle that he aligned with. So we'll see. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the actual thing that Democrats were protesting this week. So they were protesting the ICE raids, and I guess their rallying cry was "No King." And I think that their efforts were ultimately ineffective, because despite what Trump said a couple days ago about not wanting to arrest farmers and restaurant workers who are illegals, he did mention that he wants ICE to step up their operations in major Democratic run cities. So, President wants to reverse the tide of mass destruction migration. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE officers have been ordered to broaden the single largest mass deportation operation in the U.S. history, targeting crime ridden and dangerous areas in large Democrat led cities, President Trump declared on Sunday. Trump made the announcement in a post on Truth Social after teasing a few days ago that he would ease up on farmers, hotels, and leisure businesses who say they have been hurt by his administration immigration crackdowns across the country. Now, I do wonder if this was in response to that. I wonder if Trump was responding to the backlash, because many people were critical of him, including yours truly, about that being a huge mistake. And the only message that it sends is that Democrats can protest and riot in the streets and get away with it, and we will comply with their demands. So, if this is a reversal on that situation, then I think that is great. If it's not, then he is kind of sending mixed messaging. It's not very clear then what he wants to do. You can't say you want to halt, deporting farmers and hotel workers, and then say you want to ramp up deportations in Democrat cities. Just be consistent. As I had said before, be consistent. Just deport those who are here illegally, and you won't have any issues. And they're gonna see. Here's the thing that Republicans need to understand: they're going to cry about it anyway. They're going to be upset anyway. They're just looking for any reason to take to the streets and do the same thing that they have been doing for the past 8 years. Since 2016, they've been doing the same thing over and over again. It's about time we start to wise up to their strategies. Anybody, I have someone that a friend of mine, honestly, that anybody that opposes, he said that anybody that basically opposes or supports these deportations is racist. That's it. You're racist. He can't explain why. Just you're racist if you support it. Same playbook, same thing that they've been doing over and over and over again, and they won't stop. They'll continue to double down, triple down. call you a racist, whatever. They're gonna cry about it, and we have to get to the point where we just simply say, "Okay, we don't care. We're gonna do it anyway. Have fun, protest, have fun. We'll send in the National Guard to squash it. You know, get it out. Do whatever you want. You'll go to jail." And we can also start throwing the book at these people too, and making sure that they are held accountable for uh, violently destroying things. So, anyway, it continues. In order to achieve this, we must expand efforts to detain and deport illegal aliens in America's largest cities, such as Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. Sorry, guys, where millions upon millions of illegal aliens reside, the president said. He added, these and other such cities are the core of the Democratic power center, where they use illegal aliens to expand their voting base. Yeah, which is why, too, they have such a soft spot for illegals. It's not because they actually care about their problems. They don't care about their plights. They don't care what actually happens to them. They care about their votes. They know that that is a large voting block for them, and they want their votes. It's really that simple. This comes down to votes for Democrats, not compassion. They don't actually love these people. They don't actually care what happens to them. It's all crocodile tears. If they cared, maybe they'd start talking about what to do to help fix what they should do in their own countries to fix the problems that they're running from. They don't talk about that. They just call you racist, like NPCs, and expect you to comply with their demands. But we shouldn't negotiate with terrorists. All right. Similar story in the same vein. So, the president of a meat packing plant said there's no playbook on how to move forward after 76 workers at Glen Valley Foods in Omaha were arrested. Huh. What? You Oh, no playbook at all? There's nothing you can do to keep your meat plant from functioning properly without slave labor? Really? Or you could maybe do this radical thing where you hire Americans. Novel concept, I know, but maybe you can start actually prioritizing Americans in your hiring practices and not depending on slave labor, which is essentially what they are advocating for. Which is really funny too, because this is a frequently used Democratic talking point. Like, who will pluck our avocados, and who will tend to our farms, and who will be our nannies, and who will clean our toilets? Who will do these things? Because that type of work is beneath them. They don't think that that type of work is beneath Americans, and they rather pay people peanuts to have those benefits than actually paying Americans. That's just the truth. Now, I do actually have solutions for this. I do think there is something that we can do to make things a little bit more affordable on these business owners. So the first one is we should repeal and remove minimum wage requirements. Let the employers decide what they're going to pay, and the federal government can kind of stay out of it. Seems to make sense to me. And that doesn't mean that I advocate them paying them a very low wage. No, no, they can pay them what they deem fit for that line of work. And there will be other employers that will compete. And whoever has a better rate and pays more, well, they're ultimately going to be the ones that get business. But let's leave salary decisions between the employee and the employer. Let them negotiate their worth and their value for the work. And if they agree, let's say somebody goes to this employer and he says, I want you to, pick avocados in my field for 8 hours a day, and I'll pay you $5. And they say, okay. Well, they agreed to that. If they don't want to get paid that, then they can simply say, no, I'll go work somewhere else. and that'll force that employer to adjust the rate to something within reason. You know, that's it. If you don't want to pay them a fair wage, well, you just won't end up having employees anyway. So that problem is very simple. Also, I think allow lowering the working age would be a viable solution. I've said this before. Just just let younger kids work. Granted, all right, I just again, I just always have to add this disclaimer so people don't get mad at me. Granted, they are up to OSHA standards and it's a safe workplace. Let young kids work there. There's no reason a 12 to 13-year-old can't pluck avocados, okay? Like that's not hard. Labor intensive, sure, but it's not a difficult task to do. All right, and there are a lot of these jobs that are perfectly accessible to young kids. They can do it. It's a great way to teach them work ethic. It's a great way to get low cost, low skilled labor. You don't really need a lot of skills to do that. And it gives opportunities primarily to Americans, which is what we should prioritize. We should prioritize American citizens and giving them employment opportunities. The other thing I want to talk about in regards to this individual is this idea that we should just be looking at the illegal aliens coming into our countries. No, I think we should start with the employers. The people, we should go hard on the people, the individuals who are employing illegal aliens, because that will start to destroy the incentive structure that brings them here. They come here because they know that they can work for Joe Schmo off the books, making, a living wage. So they come and they come, they work, they don't pay taxes, then they do this for 20 years and then they feel entitled because they've been working here so long. Don't give them that option. Throw the book at employers who are employing illegal aliens. All you have to do is send a couple of them to jail, and the message will be loud and clear. Oh, if we hire these people, we're going to go to jail. We're going to go to jail. And not only will we now lose all of our workers, but we'll lose our freedom. And maybe they will start to rethink prioritizing foreign citizens over their own country's people. And I also think that would result in a lot of self deportations. People would voluntarily be deporting themselves because they would know, oh, there's no opportunity for me there. I can't get a job. No one will hire an illegal because they will be scared to, because they will have the fearful expectation of punishment, which is what the law is for actually. It is the government exists to punish those who do wrong, those who break the law. And we want people to have a fearful expectation that they will be punished if they break our laws. So, in closing, throw the book at these employers. Dry up the well that keeps these people coming back, and they will eventually stop coming. And while you're doing that, round up as many of them as possible and ship them off without discrimination. It doesn't matter what country they come from. It doesn't matter how long they've been here. It doesn't matter what their sob story is. They go back. And if they come as families, or deport them as families, send them all back together. But whatever the circumstances, they must leave. They must go. They must be removed from our country and sent back to where they came from. Because if we do not have borders, and if we do not enforce our borders, we do not have a country. It's really that simple. Okay, if you like this stream, please like, share, comment, and click that notification bell to stay notified every time we go live. And we go live Monday through Saturday at 9 p.m. And if you do not have Rumble Premium and you are not watching this on Rumble Premium, why not? Get on Rumble, sign up for Rumble Premium, no ads, great experience, and you support small content creators like myself on the only truly free speech platform out there, Rumble. And they're doing great work, and I could not be more proud to make content for this platform and support the good work that the folks are doing. And by the way, I do want to add something with Rumble because this isn't just like an ad read. This is I actually believe what I'm saying. It's not just something I'm just saying. I believe it. And they also have really good customer service. When I ask them a question, they respond to me. A real human being will get back to me and they will address my concerns. That tells me volumes to the type of culture that is behind Rumble. When you have people that actually listen to you, when you have people that strive to make improvements, when you have people that value improving their technology, which will ultimately improve the customer experience, that means something. That's significant. And that's what we have with Rumble. A company that actually cares about their creators, a company that actually cares about improving and innovating and creating a seamless experience for their customers. And that's exactly what you get. So I cannot recommend Rumble enough. 10 out of 10, just like How to Train Your Dragon. Anyway, have a blessed night. Deuces.